the signals no one else saw. The first time Royal Guard Daniel Reeves noticed it, he thought it was coincidence. Royal Academy pickup was always predictable, almost boring in its precision. Black vehicles in formation. Perimeter officers rotating every 6 minutes. Drone surveillance monitoring traffic patterns. Civilian observers kept at a polite distance.
Yeah, the AI integration is
Routine
seamless.
kept people safe.
Let's check out the other
Routine
booths.
also created patterns. And patterns Daniel knew could be exploited. That Tuesday afternoon was cool and quiet. The kind of calm that made even seasoned security teams relax slightly, not enough to break protocol, but enough to breathe
Levels
easier.
look good?
Princess
Yeah, all
Charlotte
green.
stood
Main
beside the
stage,
academy
confirmed.
gates,
Confirmed,
adjusting
clear
the
here.
strap of her school bag. 9 years old. Calm, observant, always polite. But today something was different.
I've waited
She
all
tapped
day
her
to
wrist
see you.
twice,
And
then
I've been
brushed
dreaming of
imaginary
this
dust
moment.
off her
You look
sleeve,
beautiful.
then shifted her weight,
We have
left
breaking
foot,
news.
right
A major
foot,
transit
like a
system
restless
glitch is
child
causing
waiting to go
widespread.
home.
Officials are
Except
mapping
Daniel
affected
had spent
areas.
16 years
The
in
energy
royal
here is
protection.
incredible. Every corner
Children
is buzzing with
fidget
AI
randomly.
breakthroughs.
Absolutely.
Patterns
The keynote
don't
on
repeat
quantum
with
integration
timing.
was mind-blowing.
Across the
exit
courtyard,
is glitching.
Prince
We have to
George's
move now.
protection officer
Copy that.
subtly
Let's go.
adjusted
Wait, look at the
position,
screen.
moving 3
see.
steps
Keep
closer
moving.
to the exit path.
Let's align on the key
Daniel
metrics
frowned.
before we proceed.
Coincidence.
Agreed. The timelines are
Probably
crucial.
coincidence.
I'll coordinate with the other
But then
teams.
Charlotte scratched her ear. Not randomly. Twice. George's officer scanned the parked vehicles.
Thank
Daniel's
you.
chest
Our robot
tightened.
is ready to
No
demonstrate.
radio
It will
call.
stack this red block
No
with
alert.
perfect precision.
Yet
This
two
represents the
officers had
future of
just
automated
repositioned
assembly.
instinctively,
It's so beautiful
like they'd
out
heard
here.
something.
Not
But
as
no one
beautiful
had
as you.
spoken. That evening, Daniel reviewed footage. Not
The
standard
official
procedure,
documents,
but
Thank you.
experience
I
had
will
taught him
review them.
something important.
You are
If your
dismissed.
instincts whisper, listen before they have to scream. He rewound the footage to 1432. Charlotte exited school. Tapped wrist.
Speeds are down. We're
George's
blind.
officer
I see it.
adjusted
We need to
stance.
move.
Agreed.
Rewind again.
Let's go.
Monday
alert.
pickup. Charlotte tied her
Override protocol
shoelace.
is engaged.
Paused.
Confirm status.
Tapped shoe
Confirmed.
twice.
Rerouting power
George's
to
escort
Downtown
vehicle
Avenue.
moved
Cable
30
secured.
centimeters forward. Small but tactically meaningful. Daniel sat back slowly. This wasn't random. This was communication. And no one, except maybe Charlotte, seemed aware it was happening. The next morning, Daniel was called to Commander Ellis's office. "You've noticed it too," the commander said without looking up from the tablet. Daniel nodded. "Yes, sir." Ellis turned the screen around. Footage grid. Dates highlighted. 23 instances in 3 months. Every time. Charlotte makes subtle movement security behavior shifts, minor irregularity detected. Delivery vehicles arriving early. Unknown pedestrians lingering too long. A drone signal spike once traced to a hobbyist flyer half a mile away. Nothing catastrophic. But always something. "You think she's doing it intentionally?" Ellis asked. Daniel chose his words carefully. "Yes, sir." "And why would a 9-year-old princess create her own security signaling system?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. Finally. "Because she thinks she has to." Daniel was reassigned that day. Primary observational guard, Princess Charlotte. Officially, routine rotation. Unofficially, find out what she knew. And why she felt responsible for royal security. The first morning was quiet. Adelaide Cottage gardens were covered in frost. Charlotte walked toward the vehicle, humming softly. Then without looking at him she spoke. "You weren't here last week." Daniel blinked. "No, Your Highness." "Charlotte
Perimeter
is
breach on
fine,"
the east
she
grid.
said gently.
Rerouting security.
He
Checking
nodded.
for anomalies.
"Yes,
Confirmed.
Charlotte."
Deploying the drone
She stopped
fleet.
walking. Turned slightly. "Do you know code?" Daniel hesitated. "Some cybersecurity basics." She smiled faintly. "Good. Because most people only think code lives inside computers." She climbed into the car. Leaving Daniel standing there, suddenly very aware this assignment was not normal. At school, Daniel observed carefully. Charlotte was completely normal. Laughing with friends. Focused in class. Arguing about math homework. But every 15 minutes she scanned exits. Windows. Reflection surfaces. Security shadows. Like second nature. Like breathing. At lunch, Daniel stood nearby while Charlotte and her classmates discussed a computer project. "My dad says coding is like magic," one girl said. Charlotte shook her head. "It's not magic. It's language. Everything is language." "What do you mean?" another girl asked. Charlotte thought for a moment. "If you know the right language, you can talk to computers. Or people. Or systems. Or sometimes, you can talk without anyone realizing you're talking at all." Daniel felt a chill. After school, Daniel walked her to the vehicle. She was quiet. Then, "Can I ask you something?" "Yes." "If you saw something strange, but you weren't sure if it was dangerous, would you still tell someone?" Daniel didn't hesitate. "Yes." She nodded slowly. There's a van. It's been outside the
We
academy
can't
3
ignore
times
this.
this
The risk
week.
is too high.
It never
I
drops
understand,
anyone
but
off.
Trust me.
The
we have it
driver
under
just
control.
Are you
watches.
sure?
I
Daniel's
promise.
pulse spiked. What does he look like? Brown jacket. Dark cap. He takes photos. Of students? She shook her head. Of guards. Daniel's training snapped fully into place. You did the right thing telling me. She looked out the window. I didn't tell George. He doesn't need to worry about everything. Daniel swallowed. Charlotte, it's not your job to protect him. She turned toward him. Her eyes were calm. But someone has to notice things early. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. Because one truth kept repeating in his mind. Charlotte wasn't playing security. She was studying it. Building something. Learning patterns faster than some trained analysts. And children don't do that unless something, or someone, taught them the world wasn't safe. The next morning, the van returned. Charlotte saw it instantly. Her fingers brushed her sleeve. 3 light taps. Daniel spoke quietly into comms. Possible surveillance vehicle confirmed. Begin passive tracking. Across the street, the van driver lifted a camera. Not toward students. Toward guard rotations. Exactly like Charlotte said. At 2:15 p.m., Charlotte asked to go to the restroom. But instead, she stopped near a hallway window. The van had moved closer to the secondary exit. Less coverage. More chaos during pickup. Daniel joined her quietly. He's changing position, she whispered.
This robot
How do
is
you know
incredible.
he's planning
Yeah,
something?
the AI integration
She didn't
is
look away from the
seamless.
window.
Let's check out the other
Because
booths.
he waited first. People who wait are usually planning. Daniel stared at her. You've thought about this a lot. Yes. Why? She was quiet for a long time. Finally. Because history shows people like us are targets. Daniel called command. Extra units deployed quietly. No alarms. No panic. Just tighter coverage. At pickup, nothing happened. The van sat still. Students left. Parents waved. Normal afternoon. Charlotte frowned. Maybe I was wrong. Daniel shook his head. Or maybe security changed his plan. At 3:47 p.m., the van started moving. Slowly passing the school. Camera recording guard positions. Then it drove away. That night, command confirmed. The license plate was fake. The vehicle was registered to a shell company. The driver was still unidentified. Commander Ellis looked at Daniel. Your princess might have just prevented something. Daniel nodded slowly. Yes, sir. But his mind was somewhere else. Because he realized something terrifying. Charlotte hadn't just noticed danger. She'd predicted behavior. Like someone who understood systems. Patterns. Human psychology. Security structure. Like someone building a network in her mind. That night, Charlotte sat in her room. Opening a small notebook hidden inside a history textbook. Inside were pages of notes. Dates. Vehicles. Guard shift timings. Suspicious patterns. And at the back, a page titled, If Something Happens, Emergency Signals. She closed the notebook, turned off her light, and whispered to the dark, just in case. The hidden system no one knew existed. The Palace Cybersecurity Center was buried 3 floors underground. No windows, no outside signal access, no distractions, only screens. Dozens of them. Flowing with encrypted data, live surveillance feeds, traffic analytics, weather movement patterns, drone airspace monitoring, and real-time public network chatter filtered for threat keywords. Royal Guard Daniel Reeves stood behind lead analyst Priya Shah as she pulled up the overnight data logs. You said the princess mentioned patterns? Priya said quietly. Daniel nodded. She predicted a surveillance shift before it happened. Priya zoomed into a flagged anomaly cluster. Then you need to see this. On screen, a map of London transport and pedestrian heat flow patterns. Highlighted in faint yellow were micro-variations in movement density. Nothing obvious. Nothing alarming. But they formed shapes. Repeating shapes. Like signals. Where did this data come from? Daniel asked. Priya hesitated. That's the strange part. It didn't come from our system. Daniel's chest tightened. Then whose? Priya zoomed further. The pattern markers. They match entries from public coding learning platforms. Anonymous
This robotics
student
demo
projects.
looks amazing.
Mostly
Yeah, I can't
educational
wait to see the
traffic
new AI
simulations.
integration.
Let's head over
Daniel
now.
felt cold realization settle in. Students. Coding. Educational networks. Charlotte. Tell me these aren't what I think they are, Daniel said quietly. Priya pulled up a user log. Anonymous student account. Age verification. Minor. Project focus. Traffic safety simulation. Pattern prediction modeling. Crowd movement optimization. Emergency evacuation logic. Daniel exhaled slowly. She's building prediction models. Priya nodded. Not hacking. Not accessing restricted data. But she's learning how systems behave. Later that afternoon, Daniel watched Charlotte during computer lab. She worked quietly. No rushing. No showing off. Just steady, precise thinking. Her screen showed simple code. Educational. Basic. But structured. Logical. Layered. Like someone building foundations for something bigger. Her teacher approached. Charlotte, your simulation is very advanced for this level. Charlotte smiled politely. I just like puzzles. After class, Daniel walked her toward the vehicle. You enjoy coding? He asked casually. She nodded. It's like solving mysteries before they happen. That's an interesting way to describe it. She thought for a moment. If you understand how things usually work, you can notice faster when something changes. Daniel said nothing. Because that was literally the foundation of threat detection theory.
Main stage, confirmed.
That evening, Commander
Clear
Ellis
here.
called Daniel into briefing. We reviewed the educational account, Ellis said. No illegal activity? None. Completely ethical. Completely legal. But, Ellis tapped the desk. She's teaching herself predictive modeling. Daniel nodded. Yes, sir. Ellis leaned back. That is both impressive and concerning. Meanwhile, Charlotte sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor. Tablet open. Notebook beside her. She wasn't building anything dangerous. She was building understanding. If crowd density changes suddenly something caused it. If vehicle routes shift reason exists. If guards move differently stimulus triggered it. Not paranoia. Logic. Pattern cause pattern effect. The next morning Daniel noticed something new. Charlotte tied her hair ribbon. Then adjusted it again. Then once more. 3 identical movements. Daniel's radio buzzed softly. Unscheduled drone detected entering outer monitoring zone. Daniel stared forward. She had signaled. Before the system alarm. At school break, Charlotte sat beside him quietly. Did you find it? She asked softly. Yes. She nodded. Good. He studied her carefully. Why do you do this? She shrugged slightly. Because if you see things early, problems stay small. That afternoon, Priya called Daniel urgently. You need to come down here. In cybersecurity lab, she showed him a new anomaly. Not external. Internal. Someone had tried scanning royal event schedules using public data. Not a breach. But reconnaissance. Could be journalists, Priya said. Or someone mapping routines, Daniel replied. Then he noticed something else. Another data tag. From the same educational platform Charlotte used. But not her account. Another user. Watching similar data patterns. Daniel felt tension spike. She's not the only one studying systems. Security increased quietly across royal movement planning. Nothing visible to public. But internally, everything tightened. That night, Daniel asked Charlotte one careful question. If someone else started learning the same patterns you are, what would you do? She thought for a long time. Then answered honestly. I'd learn faster. 3 days later, the unknown account ran a simulation predicting security bottleneck zones during public events. Not precise, but close enough to be uncomfortable. Command issued silent directive. Increase unpredictability. Randomize non-essential movements. Rotate visible personnel patterns. Charlotte noticed immediately. At breakfast, she looked at Daniel. You changed the system. Yes. Good. Then she added quietly. Because someone else is watching now too. Daniel's stomach dropped. How do you know? She met his eyes calmly. Because the internet always leaves footprints. Even when people try not to.
I've
That
waited all
afternoon,
day to see
a message appeared in the
And I've been
anonymous
dreaming of this
education
moment.
platform
You look
discussion
beautiful.
board. Not threatening. Not illegal. Just one sentence. Interesting models. Are you building them for games or for real world? Charlotte stared at it for a long time. Then closed the app. Didn't reply. Didn't engage. But she wrote something in her notebook. Someone else learning patterns. Not friendly. Not careless either. That night, Daniel reported everything. Commander Ellis listened silently. Then said something Daniel would never forget. We may be watching the first generation of children who grow up understanding global systems intuitively. Daniel nodded slowly. Yes, sir. Ellis continued. And if good people learn those systems first, they protect others. Outside, London lights glowed peacefully. Inside Adelaide Cottage. Charlotte turned off her lamp. Closed her notebook. and whispered to herself, "Stay ahead. Stay observant. Stay kind." Because she didn't want power. She wanted safety. For her brother. For her family. For people who never even knew danger existed. The day the system was tested. For 3 weeks nothing happened. And that worried royal guard Daniel Reeves more than any direct threat ever could. Because real danger didn't always arrive with alarms. Sometimes it arrived quietly. Patiently. Watching. Learning. Waiting for the moment people relaxed. The upcoming Royal Community Innovation Fair was meant to be safe. Positive. Public. Thousands of families, students, teachers, and local organizations gathering in one secured outdoor venue. Low threat profile. High visibility. But high visibility events created complexity. And complexity created blind spots. 3 days before the event, Charlotte asked Daniel something unusual. "Will there be temporary workers at the fair?" Daniel nodded. "Yes." Vendors, technicians, set up crews. She looked down at her notebook. Temporary workers are harder to pattern track. Daniel felt a chill. "Yes," he said slowly. "They are." At the Cybersecurity Center, Priya briefed command. "We've seen low-level data scraping from public event layout pages," she said. "Not enough for legal action. But enough to suggest someone is mapping crowd flow and entry routes." Commander Ellis folded his arms. "Prediction modeling?" "Yes." Daniel didn't say it. But everyone in the room was thinking the same thing. Someone else was learning. The night before the fair, Charlotte couldn't sleep. Not because she was scared. Because her brain kept running simulations. Crowd movement. Entry timing. Security rotation flow. What if someone tested perimeter reaction time? What if someone created distraction noise in one zone to pull coverage from another? She sat up. Opened her notebook. Wrote one line. If someone is learning patterns, they will test small before doing anything big. Event day, 9 a.m. The field buzzed with activity. Children laughing.
The energy
Music
here is
testing
incredible.
speakers.
Every corner is buzzing with
Vendors
AI
setting up
breakthroughs.
booths.
Absolutely. The keynote on
Security
quantum
presence
integration was
looked
mind-blowing.
relaxed, by design. Because visible comfort made the public feel safe. But invisible monitoring was running at full power. Charlotte walked beside Daniel. Her eyes moved constantly. Not nervously. Systematically. Entry-exit cameras, temporary staff equipment, vans, crowd density clusters. At 9:42 a.m., she slowed slightly. Daniel noticed instantly. "What is it?" he murmured. "Red backpack," she whispered. Daniel scanned. Found it. Resting under a bench near a vendor tent. Not hidden. Just placed. Daniel signaled silently. 2 plainclothes officers moved in casually. Checked the bag. Inside. Food containers. Child jacket. Nothing dangerous. Probably forgotten. But Daniel noticed something else. The placement location was directly between 2 security camera angles. A narrow blind slice. His radio buzzed. Bag confirmed non-threat. Logging lost property. Daniel didn't relax. Because Charlotte was still watching the crowd. At 10:15 a.m. she tapped her sleeve once. Daniel tensed. "What?" "Sound test crew," she said quietly. "They're not following equipment check sequence." Daniel looked toward the stage. One technician was testing speakers. But moving in different order than the approved layout checklist. Daniel signaled tech supervisor. The worker was verified. New hire.
The exit is glitching. We have to
Unfamiliar
move
with
now.
exact
Copy
sequence.
that. Let's go.
No
Wait, look
threat.
at the screen.
But pattern
I see.
deviation
Keep moving.
logged. Charlotte exhaled slowly. Not relief. Processing. By noon, Daniel realized something important. Nothing major was happening. But small irregularities kept appearing. Like someone was watching response behavior. Testing how quickly security noticed. Testing reaction time. Testing whether guards treated small deviations seriously. At 12:37 p.m., Charlotte froze mid-step. Daniel followed her gaze. Across the field. A man. Standing still. Not watching stage. Not watching crowd. Watching security movement. Charlotte spoke quietly. "He's mapping rotations." Daniel spoke into radio. "Soft observe male subject, blue jacket, east food zone." Response came instantly. "Already tracking." The man bought food. Saturday. Checked phone. Normal behavior. But Daniel knew. Real observers always mixed normal with observation. Then Charlotte said something that made Daniel's pulse spike. "He's not alone." "Where?" "Entrance tent. Woman with tablet. She's counting intervals between guard rotations." Daniel's radio came alive. "Command, potential coordinated observation activity." Security tightened, invisibly. But then something unexpected happened. At 1:10 p.m., children's robotics demonstration began. Crowd surged toward stage. Natural crowd
Let's
compression.
align on the key metrics
Security
before we
focused
proceed.
forward.
Agreed. The
At
timelines are
exact same
crucial.
moment,
I'll coordinate with the
the
other
blue
teams.
jacket man moved toward restricted equipment zone. Not running. Not sneaking. Just walking confidently. Like someone who expected no one to stop him. Charlotte grabbed Daniel's sleeve. Now. Daniel moved instantly. Intercepted politely. Sir, that zone is staff only. The man blinked. Apologized. Turned around. Left. No confrontation. No incident. But Daniel knew. That was a test. Would security stop someone confident enough? Would they hesitate? Minutes later. Tablet woman left the event. Security followed discreetly. By 2 p.m., both individuals had disappeared into city crowds. No crime committed. Nothing illegal. But data collected. Response measured. Reaction timing studied. Back at command, Alice spoke quietly. They were testing system alertness. Priya nodded. Learning our thresholds. Daniel thought of Charlotte's notebook line. Test small first. That evening, Daniel sat with Charlotte in garden. You helped today, he said. She shook her head. I just noticed things. That matters. She was quiet. Then said softly. Did they learn anything? Daniel answered honestly. Maybe. She nodded slowly. Then we learned faster. That night, Charlotte wrote in her notebook. They tested awareness. We passed. But they will adapt. So must we. In Cybersecurity Center, Priya discovered something new. The unknown education platform account had gone silent. Completely. No new simulations. No logins. Nothing. Commander Ellis stared at the screen. They learned enough for now. Outside, London slept peacefully. But somewhere. Someone had confirmed something important. Royal security was strong. But predictable systems could always be studied. Inside Adelaide Cottage. Charlotte closed her notebook, turned off her light, and whispered, Stay one step ahead. The threat no one expected. For the first time since Daniel Reeves had joined Royal Protection, the danger didn't arrive from outside. It arrived through something everyone trusted. 2 weeks after the Innovation Fair, life seemed to return to normal. School schedules, training rotations, public appearances. Security reports were quiet. Too quiet. And Charlotte noticed first. Started with something small. Breakfast news playing softly in the background. Charlotte wasn't really watching. But she heard something. Minor data outages affecting several public transit timing boards. Most people ignored it. Minor outages happened all the time. But Charlotte paused mid-bite. Because timing boards ran on predictable synchronized systems. And systems rarely glitched randomly across multiple locations at once. At school that morning, she asked her computer teacher a casual question. Can traffic systems fail without warning? The
Thank
teacher
you.
smiled.
Our robot is ready to
Usually
demonstrate.
not.
It will stack
There
this
are
red block with
backups.
perfect precision.
Charlotte
This
nodded.
represents the future of
That was
automated
exactly
assembly.
what worried her. That afternoon, Daniel noticed she was quieter than usual. Not scared. Thinking. Deeply. What are you running through your head? He asked gently. She hesitated. Do you ever see patterns, but wish you were wrong? Daniel didn't answer right away. Yes, he said finally. Me too, she whispered. Meanwhile, in the Cybersecurity Center, Priya noticed something strange. Not a breach. Not an attack. But small data delays. Public camera feeds lagging by half a second. Transit timing updates refreshing slower than normal. Weather microdata syncing inconsistently. Nothing dangerous. But not normal either. Commander Ellis frowned. Could be system updates. Priya nodded slowly. Maybe. But it's across unrelated infrastructure. Daniel felt cold realization forming. Someone wasn't breaking systems. Someone was studying how systems responded under mild stress. That night, Charlotte wrote in her notebook, If you want to understand a system, you don't break it. You make it uncomfortable. Then watch how it reacts. 3 days later, Royal Charity Science Exhibition Day. Indoor venue. Highly controlled environment. Thousands of visitors rotating through. Very safe. Very structured. Very system-dependent. Charlotte arrived calm. Smiling. Greeting volunteers. But Daniel noticed her scanning ceiling sensors more than usual. At 10:12 a.m., Priya called command urgently. We're seeing sync drift in venue environmental monitoring. How bad? Ellis asked. Not dangerous. Just delayed. Daniel's stomach tightened. System delays during public events were never good. At 10:18 a.m., Charlotte stopped mid-conversation with a student robotics team. She looked toward emergency exit display boards. One flickered. Just once. Then normal again. But Charlotte had seen it. She walked toward Daniel. "Something is wrong," she said quietly. "What?" "I don't know yet." Then she said something that made Daniel's pulse spike. "If I wanted to study security response without hurting anyone, I'd create small system confusion." Daniel spoke into radio. "Begin full silent system diagnostics." Security tech teams ran checks. Nothing critical. Everything still safe. But systems were slightly slower. At 11:02 a.m. venue crowd density increased. More visitors arriving. More system strain. Then, one emergency exit display froze. Only for 2 seconds. Then recovered. Command made decision. Reduce entry flow. Quietly. No panic. No public alarm. Charlotte watched crowd movement change slightly. Then she whispered. "They're watching response speed." At 11:20 a.m. Priya found source. Not malicious code. Not hack. External signal noise
The official
interference.
documents, sir.
Legal
Thank you.
signal
I
range.
will review them.
But intentionally positioned
You
to
are
create
dismissed.
micro delays. Someone was testing infrastructure stress tolerance. Learning how fast backup systems corrected. Learning how security adapted. Daniel felt cold. This wasn't random. This was intelligent. Careful. Patient. Then Charlotte said something that made everyone pause. "They don't want to hurt people." Daniel blinked. "How do you know?" "Because if they did, they wouldn't test small first." Command trace signal van. But vehicle left before interception. Again. Testing. Learning. Leaving. Event ended safely. No incidents. Public never knew anything was wrong. Back at command, silence filled the room. Ellis spoke finally. "They are mapping response layers." Priya nodded. "They're building predictive understanding." Daniel thought of Charlotte's words. "Learn faster." That night, Daniel sat with Charlotte in garden again. "You helped stop something today." She shook her head. "No. I helped us stay ready." He studied her carefully. "You shouldn't have to think about things like this." She smiled gently. "But I do. And that's okay." She looked up at the sky. "I don't want to be afraid of the world." Daniel swallowed. "Neither do I. I just want to understand it better than the people who might want to break it." That night, Charlotte wrote. "They are careful. Smart. Patient. So we must be kinder. And smarter. And calmer." In Cybersecurity Center. The unknown learning account logged in once. Only once. Uploaded one message to public forum. Systems adapt faster than expected. Then disappeared again. Commander Ellis looked at Daniel. "They're not done." Daniel nodded. "No, sir." Outside, London lights glowed peacefully. Inside Royal Protection Command. One truth became clear. The next test wouldn't be small. Inside Adelaide Cottage. Charlotte closed her notebook, turned off her light, and whispered into the dark. "Whatever comes next, we'll be ready." The moment security changed forever. For months, Royal Protection had been reacting, learning, adapting, quietly improving. But everyone in command understood something unspoken. The unknown observers were still out there, still studying, still waiting for the right moment to test something bigger. Winter arrived early that year. Cold air settled over London. Public events decreased. Royal movement schedules simplified. Security systems were upgraded quietly in the background. Randomization protocols expanded. Pattern unpredictability increased. On paper, protection had never been stronger. But Charlotte noticed something else. The world was becoming more connected, more automated, more dependent on invisible systems. And invisible systems could be studied. 3 weeks before the new year, Charlotte asked Daniel a question during car ride to school. "Do you think danger always looks like danger?" Daniel shook his head. "No." She nodded. "I think the next problem won't look like a threat at all." Meanwhile, cybersecurity monitoring showed something new. Not attacks. Not interference. Silence. No probes. No testing signals. No strange data behavior. Nothing. And that worried Priya more than anything else had. Because smart observers didn't need to test forever. Eventually, they acted. The New Year Royal Youth Technology Summit was scheduled for early January. Young inventors, students, future tech demonstrations, global livestream audience, extremely positive event, extremely complex technical environment, thousands of connected devices, temporary networks, cloud data relays. Charlotte loved technology events. But 2 days before the summit, she told Daniel quietly, "This is the kind of place someone would test something big." Daniel felt tension return
Feeds are down,
instantly.
we're blind.
Security
I see it. We
preparation
need to
doubled.
move.
Agreed.
But publicly,
Let's go.
everything
Stay
looked
alert.
normal, friendly, safe, celebratory. Summit day, 8:30 a.m. Charlotte walked through entrance calmly. But Daniel noticed something new. She wasn't scanning for threats anymore. She was scanning system dependency, power backup points, network access hubs, emergency manual override stations. At 9:05 a.m., Priya called command. "We're seeing unusual network handshake retries across guest devices." "Malicious?" Ellis asked. "Not yet. Just pressure on connection routing." Charlotte paused near demonstration hall entrance, closed her eyes briefly, then whispered, "They're testing how systems fail when overloaded." Daniel spoke into radio. "Prepare manual override readiness across all critical systems." At 9:20 a.m. livestream buffering began. Minor delay. Nothing dangerous. But system load rising. Then Charlotte said something quietly that changed everything. "They're not trying to break anything." Daniel blinked. "Then what?" "They're trying to prove systems can be overwhelmed by normal behavior." Priya confirmed minutes later. Mass automated device connection requests. Legal but coordinated. Not hacking. Just extreme demand pressure. Command made decision. Shift partial systems to manual control. Load balancing activated early. Public never noticed. But Daniel realized something bigger. The threat wasn't sabotage. It was demonstration. Proof that overdependence on automation could create vulnerability. By 10 a.m., network stabilized. Summit continued perfectly. Public saw nothing. But behind the scenes, command understood. This was the final message. Not attack. Warning. That evening, cybersecurity found final message on education forum. One sentence. Strong systems are human systems first. Then the account vanished permanently. No one ever claimed responsibility. No criminal trace. No political message. Nothing. Just demonstration. Commander Ellis sat in silence. Then said, "They didn't want to break anything." Priya nodded. "They wanted us to think." Daniel
Override
thought of
protocol
Charlotte
is
immediately.
engaged. Confirm status.
That night,
Confirmed.
Daniel
Rerouting
sat
power
with
to
Charlotte in the
Down to
cottage
nothing.
garden
Cable
one
secured.
last time before winter recess. "You helped protect something bigger than people today," he said. She tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "You helped protect trust. In systems. In safety. In preparation." She was quiet. Then said softly, "I just want people to feel safe without knowing why they're safe." Weeks later, Royal Protection quietly implemented permanent changes. More human observation layers. Less blind system trust. More predictive behavior modeling. More education collaboration with young tech learners. And something else changed forever. Security teams began studying pattern recognition not just from training manuals, but from unexpected minds. Creative minds. Observational minds. Young minds. Years later, Daniel would tell new recruits something simple. The day security changed wasn't when we stopped a threat. It was when we learned that awareness, curiosity, and kindness can be stronger than fear. On Charlotte's 10th birthday, Commander Ellis gave her a simple gift. A notebook. Leather cover. Inside front page read. "For the person who reminded us that the best protection starts with understanding." That night, Charlotte wrote in her new notebook, "Safety isn't about control. It's about awareness. And helping people live without fear." Outside, London moved peacefully. People commuting. Laughing. Living normal lives. Never knowing how many small risks had been prevented quietly. And that was exactly how Charlotte wanted it. Daniel stood watch outside the cottage. Calm. Focused. Proud. Because protection wasn't just about shields anymore. It was about learning. Growing. Adapting. Together. Inside, Charlotte turned off her light. Closed her notebook. And for the first time in months, fell asleep without running simulations in her head. Because she knew something important now. She wasn't carrying safety alone. And somewhere in the world, someone who once tested systems probably smiled quietly. Because the message had been received. The end.